Hello and welcome to the series I remember exists every few months. This will probably never be a regular series, because they take way too much time to make and I only get like 2 views each. But sometimes you're hanging around and just feel like rambling about things that don't matter. Yay. Before we start, a reminder that everything I say in this video is optional. Just because I say something doesn't mean you have to do it. It's your character and you can do what you want. Okay, before I start going on tangents, let's just begin. Today we have Fireshadow, who's a 36-moon-old SkyClan medicine cat. Her appearance says that she's a long, furried, fluffy, flame-colored she-cat with a white chest and paws and white cheek fur. She has large, pale, greenish-yellow eyes and long whiskers. She has long legs and claws. Since she has so much white, why not call her Fireshine or Sunheart, because there's a white spot on her chest? I typically don't really care about names too much. I'm the type of person who thinks names like Billy Storm and Harvey Moon are charming. The name Fireshadow, though, doesn't really make sense to me. Fire is a light source, so it doesn't have a shadow. It also just sounds weird, like if Dove Wing was named Dove Robin or Dove Ivy. Her personality reads, she's a distant and quiet cat. She prefers to be alone and can be impatient and rude. She is smart and quick to fix a problem. She's very observant, but keeps her observations to herself. That sounds okay. It's a little bit of the generic loner, though. There's not really much to make her stand out from, say, Jayfeather or any other grump in the series. But let's not judge too quickly. Sometimes it's the context of a character that makes it great. So the backstory reads, when she was a kit, her best friend was Ashpaw, a young apprentice that was confined to the medicine cat den due to an unknown illness. They would play together, and Firekit would share her problems with Ashpaw. Ashpaw begged every night for Firekit to sleep with her. One night, Firekit fell asleep with Ashpaw, like usual, but when she woke up, Cindergrace, an elder, was carrying her friend away. Firekit tried to follow, yelling Ashpaw's name, but her mother picked her up by the scruff to hold her back. She escaped and raced over to the motionless body of the young she-cat. After she saw the impact it had on Ashpaw's parents, Firekit decided to become a medicine cat so she would never have to face the horrors of losing kits and putting a mate through that type of pain. Okay, there's more to the backstory and I will be commenting on it as a whole at the end, but I just want to point out how much of a bad idea her becoming medicine cat is. If she's just doing it so she won't have kits, she can just not have kits. There's no rule that says that a warrior has to have kits. Mousefur didn't have kids. Plus, a kit wouldn't have the forethought to think of it in terms of her future and her mate and kits. She's just lost a friend, and Ashpaw's parents lost their kid. A small child isn't gonna be able to put herself so directly in their shoes like that. And even if she does, this is the only point where she experiences fear of loss. She'd get over it long before she's an adult. It'll make more sense if she became a medicine cat to make sure no one else ever died from whatever killed Ashpaw. It's a little cliche, yes, but that's not always a bad thing. The backstory continues. When she was an apprentice, she learned the herbs quickly but never felt a connection with StarClan. They were nothing to her. Her mentor, Gorsplash, soon noticed this and talked to her about it. She was surprised by the hate Firepaw showed for their warrior ancestors. She got her full medicine cat name when she saved an elder named Kenstrel Fang when she had a seizure. She eventually fell in love with a she-cat named Mouseflower, but she became mates with a Tom named Hickory Nose. This broke Fireshadow's heart and made her vow never to fall in love again. She grew even more distant when Gorsplash died of green cough. She lived until the same illness that took her dear friend Ashpaw took her as well. Well, that was depressing. If you're gonna use a character like this in a story, there has to be some kind of arc. And sure, it's okay to have a depressing ending, but they're typically reserved for when the entire point of the story is to catalog one character's tragic downfall, or if a character flat out refuses to change, and if the story is meant to be a warning of some kind, which is like all the books they make you read in high school. Fireshadow just seems like an emotionally detached cat, whose life is a chain of miserable events for seemingly no reason. I mean, taken out of context, losing a friend, a lover, and a mentor is something anyone, and indeed a lot of people, do go through, especially once they reach a certain age. But the backstory doesn't list a single positive in Fireshadow's life. Anything good that happens is eventually ruined by betrayal or death. And the end result is a story that feels a bit pointless because Fireshadow doesn't seem to have any control over it. Now, if she was a horrible person who directly or indirectly caused death through her actions, that would be another story. Or if death resulted from her failure to act when she should have. So if you want to turn this into a story, first you need to ask yourself, what is my character supposed to do? What is her point in this narrative? From what you have established, one of Fireshadow's possible character flaws is that she doesn't believe in StarClan. Think about how this might cause problems for her. Explore how Ashpaw's death affected her and what her thoughts toward her ancestors are. I know that in canon, StarClan is sometimes equated to non-omnipotent gods, but first and foremost, they're the ancestors to living cats. They're basically all the dead people, which include Ashpaw and anyone else Fireshadow may have loved and lost. So if you were trying to imply that she has no connection to StarClan because they somehow caused her friend to die, or let him die, StarClan in canon really doesn't have much control over what will and won't happen. They can just predict it and give warnings. So her not having a connection with them because of her friend's death doesn't really make sense. Also, cats typically have to show a connection with StarClan before they're taken on as a medicine cat apprentice at all. Little Cloud died without taking on an apprentice specifically because he couldn't find a Shadow Clan cat with that ability. The only one in the series I can remember who just sort of became a medicine cat because she wanted to was Hollyleaf, who quit in like 2 seconds. Okay, for the last part of this review, I'm going to try and make up a story using as many elements you gave me as possible. It's not going to be a masterpiece. I'm pretty much just going to make it up on the spot as I write this script. But maybe it'll give you a few ideas for where you want your story to go. We start out with Firekit as this super reserved kitten. She doesn't play fight as much and just prefers doing her own thing. Since Ashpaw was sick from a young age and couldn't do much physically, the two became great friends while in the nursery. When Ashpaw dies, Firekit spends a long time grieving, and when she finally comes out of it, she finds that she really doesn't have any other connections in her clan. She's an apprentice herself at this point, and all the other apprentices have already formed their own little inner circles. Being reserved, she naturally feels that there's not much room for her, and basically just resigns to being alone all the time. Being a medicine cat apprentice only further isolates her from the other apprentices. She wants to make more friends, but she lacks both opportunity and ability. Her first gathering is a huge event for her, because none of the new apprentices know anyone from the other clans, so she can start fresh along with everyone else. She meets Mousefur, who's still Mousepaw at this point, and after several gatherings she realizes she's closer to her than any of the apprentices from her own clan. You could have fun with the conflict on that end, because there's no one right answer. Being friends with a cat from another clan isn't explicitly wrong, but it might feel wrong to her. And if Mouseflower is meant to fall in love with someone else, would Fireshadow be able to stay friends with her, or would she risk losing the only cat she's ever been close to? Since you mentioned she was so observant, what if she notices that one of the apprentices was sick, but trying to hide it because they only got sick after doing something they should have been? She could try to help, but be yelled at by the apprentice, who makes it clear she'll be despised for ratting them out. She wants the other apprentices to like her, so she says nothing, and because of that, the apprentice dies. And this is what makes it so she loses her connection with StarClan. Yes, loses, meaning that she can't see Ashpaw in her dreams anymore. To make this pack an extra punch, you can make it so that they saw each other regularly before, since Ashpaw was the first and one of the few connections to another cat she had, and now she's lost that. she's at her lowest point. She'll think it's her fault at first, but eventually it's revealed that it was all in her head due to the guilt she had of not being able to do her duty. There are a ton of ways she can eventually get her connection back, but it'll have to involve a shift in her character into someone who's more in tune with her clanmates. Maybe one of the warriors gets sick or badly injured and has to stay in the medicine den for a few weeks. They could start talking and Fireshadow could reveal a witty, humorous side to her personality, or maybe a snarky and sarcastic side. They could form a bond there and she'd get invited to share tongues and all the good stuff. She'll regain her connection to StarClan and be able to see Ashpaw again, but at this point she's less dependent on his company. She has friends in the waking world, and you can have a touching scene where Ashpaw says he's not needed anymore, and Fireshadow replies by saying Ashpaw will always be important to her. Hopefully some of that was helpful. If you want me to give your OC a look over, I'll gladly do it. Just leave your OC in the description of my latest OC review video and wait. I pretty much pick which one to do at random, so don't get your hopes up. If you have questions, arguments, suggestions, pretty much anything, just leave a comment. I'll reply to everything. Okay, see you guys in like 50 years.